Good afternoon, good day, everybody. Welcome to a very special show from the man sitting to my right. This is a very special edition of The Harsh Truth. Goldsmith weighs in. Why? Because today is the 59th anniversary when President Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas. And we have a show today that basically is based on providing you information for you to make a decision. And we'll talk about that. This show is called JFK, The Verdict, American Grand Jury, You Decide. And with that, you'll be able to go to jfktheverdict.com and literally cast your vote based on the information that we're providing, whether Lee Harvey Oswald was by himself or let's just say whether he had help. We'll just leave it at that. It is my pleasure this time to introduce the man with the answers, the man that's going to be talking a lot about what we have, Mr. Scott Goldsmith. How are you, sir?
I'm fine, Aaron. Thank you for the nice introduction. Welcome to Goldsmith Weighs In, the JFK assassination, lone gunman, or conspiracy at the highest level. You're going to decide. We're going to provide all the information that we can. Nobody ever served one day in prison for the greatest crime of the 20th century. And basically, it's 59 years of research by hundreds, if not thousands, of investigators, researchers, and authors that have painstakingly uncovered all the information that we are going to present to you today. And hopefully you come out with a conclusion. The only time in history, by the way, that two governing committees of the United States, the Warren Commission, came up with a conclusion it was a lone nut gunman, Lee Harvey Oswald all by himself, and the 1976 Select Committee on the assassination of JFK came to exactly the opposite conclusion. They came up with the conclusion that there was more than one person involved, but they were unable to identify that person. So that's going to be interesting to ferret through all that information and see if you guys can figure out exactly the truth. Now, they will not release the documents pertaining to the 1976 Select Committee on Assassination, or the FBI papers, or the CIA, or the Secret Service, or any number of 16,000 documents that are still locked up in the National Archives. And these are documents that would tell us the whole truth, but obviously every president since Clinton decided to release them in 1997 keeps kicking the can down the road. And you got to ask yourself this one question. If it was a lone nut gunman and they just committed a murder, why would they need to lock up 16,000 documents till 2039 and put away Jacqueline Kennedy's dress till 2103? Anyway, on the show, we're going to examine all the evidence wherever it may lead us. It doesn't matter. Whatever person, organization, or evidence that we've come across, we are going to present it to you today. However, I want to make this emphatically clear. We have no axe to grind with anybody. We're certainly not anti-Semitic. So please take that one off the table, and we're not anti-anything. We're just here to present the evidence that we've gathered together to try to bring this complex puzzle of 59 years of why our duly elected president, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, had to be forcibly removed from office to the point where they decided they needed to kill him. So with that, Aaron, I'm going to give you the opening question.
All right. I feel like I'm on like the People's Court or something.
Yep.
Viewers Court.
What's your question?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so engrossed. No. I'm so engrossed with everything. Listen, here's the thing. I want to set the stage, and then I'll get into the question.
Oh, that's a good question. Setting the stage,
right.
By the way.
There you go.
Let's go back to 1963.
Right.
Cold War.
Yep.
We were up against the Russians. We got the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Yep.
We got Castro in there. We're trying to assassinate him. The mob is at the strongest point in their entire history. And the reason that old J. Edgar Hoover never admitted there was a mob is because they had a little hard evidence on him he didn't want out there.
Exactly.
So we're talking about a time marijuana for the first time came on the scene. We're talking LSD with Timothy Leary.
Right.
It was a whole different era. So we have to bring this whole show in context with exactly that era. But go ahead.
All right, so here's my question. As I was mentioning, or would like to mention, this all happened a year before I was born. So I'm reading it and understanding through history, okay? My question to you is this. This is like there's two sides to every story, and somewhere in between might be the truth. Might be the harsh truth, by the way. See what I did there? So my question is this. Why has this fascinated everybody for 59 years to the point where here we are, we're discussing it today on the anniversary. Anybody who might have been involved, has passed on or is about to pass on. Why is this such a hot topic today for people to still be talking about?
Well, Aaron, you know everybody loves a conspiracy. they love a conspiracy. And the JFK is the biggest single crime of the 20th century.
Okay.
And they released an exact description of Lee Harvey Oswald within 14 minutes of the president being shot, down to his weight, what he was wearing, color of his hair. That's almost impossible unless it was preloaded.
Sure. That makes sense. Yeah, really.
The guy who got fired from the CIA, Allen Dulles.
Okay.
He had a general working for him on the CIA. He got fired too, and so did his assistant.
Okay.
His brother just happened to be the mayor of Dallas.
Oh boy.
So he could change routes. He could get cooperation from the police department.
Right.
He could get Ruby down below the. So they wanted this closed.
Okay.
They wanted it done. They did not. They did not plan this with the idea that any other narrative would ever come out.
Right. It's just interesting. And of course, at the time, JFK was beloved at the time for a lot of different reasons. I mean, he was a star more than just a president. So when you look at that factor, it just makes it very interesting. So let's kind of talk. Let's get started with maybe where some of the connections are. I've heard things like Israel's been involved, and of course you touched on it.
Sure.
Where the mob were two really names that everybody is pretty familiar with. Of course, that was Meyer Lansky and Mickey Cohen. So let's talk about that. How did that happen?
Let's go to the start. So we've laid the groundwork of what was happening in 1963.
Society, right?
What was also happening is that Israel, under Ben-Gurion, wanted the bomb. They wanted the A-bomb. So they had this project, kind of like Iran has today.
Sure.
Only it's called Domian, or Domia. I'm sorry. I
think we have a picture of Ben-Gurion, who, in case you don't know who he is.
Yeah, he was a prime minister.
Yes.
Now, he felt that getting the A-bomb was key to the survival of his young country, Israel.
Okay.
And when Kennedy did not want nuclear proliferation, so he was against anybody else getting the bomb, including Israel. And he started asking very strongly that he would like to have inspections on this Doma facility on a regular basis to ensure they were not getting the bomb.
And Doma was a little small town, wasn't it? It was just it just started, right?
You exactly got it right. It was kind of like our White Sands for our test, right?
Okay. And there's a picture of Gurion now as we speak.
Exactly.
Look at those eyebrows.
He was a real tough guy.
Sure. Yes, he was.
And he was a soldier and all this good stuff. So he actually, when Kennedy sent a letter demanding that they allow us to inspect Doma, he resigned 3 days before the letter got there, and appointed a new prime minister. Now he hates Kennedy with a purple passion. This is not a mild hate. He thinks Kennedy is putting his country's existence
at risk,
in jeopardy. Now, old Ben-Gurion just happened to want to focus on neutralizing Kennedy's ability to stop them from getting the bomb any way they could.
Sure.
Any way they could. But they decided to assassinate him, and Ben-Gurion may have been one of the guys with Meyer Lansky, who was an ardent supporter of Israel, by the way.
I have a picture here.
Yeah,
if
show
we
that.
Can zoom
That would be great.
Get it up there. But
Meyer Lansky, he on the commission after Luciano, Lucky Luciano, was deported to Italy. Meyer Lansky is now one of the head guys on the commission. This hit on Kennedy that was authorized, and then given to the lower mobsters, the head of the families, was okayed by the commission, and it only could have happened if Meyer Lansky had given the okay.
So where does Mickey Cohen fit into this initial plan as well?
Mickey Cohen was a good friend of Ben-Gurion, and he runs L.A. He is the key mobster in Los Angeles, and he has the a good part of the Santa Anita racetrack down there. And an interesting side note is the guy who was behind RFK when he was assassinated just happened to be a security guard that worked at Santa Anita.
Oh, boy.
All right, so they weren't going to let this come back up once they had finished it. So that's the Israel connection now goes over to the Mossad.
Okay.
They're involved. So they decide to go and find assassins that are mob associated with Lansky and Mickey Cohen, but outside the country.
Okay.
So they go to France. This is the French Connection. I don't know if anybody remembers that movie.
I certainly do.
But they're bringing heroin in from Vietnam.
Okay.
And it's going through the French Connection to the New York mob and other mobsters.
Gotcha.
It had been reduced by almost half under Kennedy.
Gotcha.
So they're on the upset right away.
So now he's making enemies no matter where he
he's making
turns.
enemies of these guys. So what they do is they tap a Sicilian mafiosa associate of the mob in the U.S. called Lucian Sarti.
Okay.
Now, Lucian Sarti is kind of hand okayed, from what they tell us, by Ben-Gurion and Meyer Lansky. They want to make sure this hit is done right if it's going to get done. Now, by the way, can I interject something here?
Yes.
None of this was ever supposed to come out. This was supposed to be so well planned and so well executed that you and I should not be talking about it right now.
And that's the thing. I mean, you know, it's been locked away
for so long, and you know, some of it was released, like you said earlier. There's Lucian there.
Yep.
It's just interesting that how it was released. It's being released in phases. You mentioned earlier, Clinton let some of it out when he was president.
Well, he said to let all of it out in 1997, and they did not do it.
So that should tell you right there, if the president himself can't have the information opened up,
they're hiding something.
Yeah, something stinks and it ain't the day-old fish. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. That's exactly right. Now, Lucian came in, by the way, put his picture back up there.
Okay.
He actually flew into Mexico City, and he came back in over to the border of Texas and was picked up by U.S. mobsters, probably Nicoletti and and some of his guys, the boys. And then he went to Dallas, was there on December 22nd. He wasn't a tourist. And then he stayed for 2 weeks undercover and then went up to Montreal and flew out of Canada.
Afterwards.
Yeah, and Montreal had a big mafia, thing. So that's how we got a guy from Sicily
into the country
here
to be
doing
involved.
Target practice on our president.
Jeez. Well, I think that pretty much at this point sets the stage.
Can we take
I think we should take a break.
Oh, take a commercial.
You are very lucky to be listening and watching a very special show. Scott Goldsmith, The Harsh Truth, JFK, solo, conspiracy. You're going to decide, and we'll tell you how when we come back right after this.
This is the story of one man's incredible journey from 350 to 200-pound weight loss and his mission to help and inspire others. Aaron Phillips. People are praising Aaron's new book with 5-star reviews. Aaron's various humorous and wildly entertaining stories portray his rise as a sports announcer, his encounters with exotic and irregular entertainers on the Las Vegas Strip through his long-running Vegas Unwrapped radio show, and his contagious and positive style of pursuing success. Call now or visit our website or Amazon now to get your copy of Let My Voice Speak to You, stories from a Hall of Fame radio personality. Order now.
Live Vegas Studios, a unique multi-camera social media virtual content creators paradise. We offer high-end services using live streaming and film production for your personal or corporate, commercial or event and campaign needs. Pre-record or live stream to your audience on multiple social media platforms simultaneously. Fun and interactive with social media comments, phone lines, live remotes, audio Foley sounds, and Snapchat filters. Be creative, get recognized, and make money. We help you by providing an all in-house production team. Visit our website at golive.vegas.
All right, welcome back to a very special Harsh Truth Show where Goldsmith weighs in. I'm Aaron Phillips. Just going to drive in the car a little bit to get Scott to share all of his information. Now, listen, you're hearing information that we want you to decide, America, who really took care of JFK. Was it one person, Lee Harvey Oswald, or was it a connection of many others? So go to the following website, JFKtheverdict.com. You'll see it there, right there on the screen, right below us right now. JFKtheverdict.com. Cast your vote. Now, can they vote more than once as they're watching, or can they vote throughout?
They can vote throughout.
Okay, well, there you have it. You can cast as many votes as you want, but we're asking you to cast your vote again on JFK, the assassination, the jury, the verdict. Was it Lee Harvey Oswald by himself? Or, as I said, did he have a band of merry men to help him carry out? Or was he even the shooter that took that shot the bullet? We don't know, and that's what we're discussing today. Okay,
we're going to move on, I think.
You mentioned the Mossad earlier.
Right.
Which is a very, very strong defense, shall we say, in Israel, who had some other connections to all of this with some organizations.
That's an excellent place, Aaron, to start. The French connection, obviously, we talked about it. They are CIA. They were off the reservation pretty good in the 60s. They had assassinated a couple of the South American presidents. Mm-hmm. They were the guys who did later on the president of Vietnam. I can't remember his name. If I pronounce it, it'll be wrong. But they were also trying to oust Charles de Gaulle, the president of France, because France was trying to make Algeria an independent country, and our CIA was afraid if they did that, it would go communist. So they're trying to actually get rid of de Gaulle or kill him too.
Gotcha.
And when he heard of this, he made it public, and of course that killed it. Mm-hmm. The minute he put it out in the papers in the U.S.,
that was it.
Our president got mad, and that was the end of Charles de Gaulle trying to be assassinated. So the CIA's off the reservation. They're doing whatever they want. They got pretty much an unlimited capability of doing just what they think is the right thing.
Right.
Now, you got the Mossad under Ben-Gurion.
Right.
A guy that's on the desk of the Mossad for the CIA is a guy that I'm trying to think of his name right now. Let me see if I can find that. Who is that guy?
At the Mossad?
Yeah, he's on the desk for the CIA for the Mossad, and I'm trying to think. David Atlee Phillips might be it, but I think it's more. Let me see.
Folks, this is we have a lot of information, so sometimes it gets crossed.
Yeah, they got a CIA guy who's on the desk, and he's working with the Mossad. Now, the Mossad has to work with the OAS, the French, because they're not in the dark either. They know what's going on.
Sure.
So now you got the Mossad, you got the CIA, you got the OAS, because they're trying to protect de Gaulle too.
Sure.
And you got our mob under Meyer Lansky and Mickey Cohen. Mm-hmm. So you got this whole group. Now, we're going to come to the conspirators. The conspirators here are the CIA and others. But let's start with the CIA. The Bay of Pigs invasion was a debacle.
Right.
Because they thought they were promised air power by JFK, and it never materialized.
Okay.
They ended up hating JFK for this, and there were anti-Castro soldiers that were trained in a clandestine way to try to get to Castro, and a lot of things came out of that underneath the cover of the CIA umbrella. The main guy that is involved in this is Alan Dulles. Alan Dulles is...
I believe we have a picture.
Yeah, we got a picture of him. Alan Dulles is fired. His assistant is fired. a general is fired that's on the CIA and on the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
Okay.
Okay? So what you got is you got the CIA under Allen Dulles, okay? There's a guy that's also in that CIA and the Mossad and the military complex. If you pull all those together and you throw LBJ into the mix, you've got the key people here
Right.
that are in a position to do something like this and have the ability to cover it up. This is not an easy thing to pull off and then try to cover up. So the Bay of Pigs started the whole
There's
thing.
a lot of moving parts.
There's a lot of
Let's
moving
put it
parts.
that way.
Exactly.
And now at this point, is the airport in Washington named after this guy? Dulles Airport? Is this the same guy?
It is. Oh my God, I never thought of that.
So a guy who is possibly involved in all of this
Right.
now has an airport named after him in the city where he resided as a CIA head.
Just put these together. You got the CIA, you got Mossad, you got LBJ, and you have the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Could not have been done without somebody in each one of those being involved.
And what's interesting is you named key elements, LBJ, Joint Chiefs. These are associates of the president that is so close to him. It's a close circle if you think about how the system's supposed to work. How in God's name did nothing not leak somehow to JFK? Or was he just oblivious to all what could be going on around him with these key people?
Well, you know, there's so many people involved in this that it's amazing that he was not forewarned of this. But the Joint Chiefs of Staff, for example, were so upset with Kennedy for doing his order, which was NASM 263, that was going to pull everybody out of Vietnam, every soldier by 1965.
Gotcha.
And he thought Kennedy is now soft on communism. And what the CIA fed to him is, he might even be feeding information to the communists, which would make him a traitor.
Sure.
So Curtis LeMay, who's the cigar-smoking general that wants to go into Vietnam so bad that he cannot stand it, may have been. Now, you know, there's a lot of people on Joint Chiefs of Staff.
Right.
So it could have been anybody.
Sure,
But
sure.
you take that, Dulles, LBJ, the Mossad, and the mob, Meyer Lansky being that person.
Sure, right.
You've got all the key elements.
All the makings.
Right. Now, one interesting note. You'll like this. Kennedy's having an affair with one of the top 3 guys at the CIA for years.
Okay.
A lady named Mary Mantra or something or another.
That's okay, Mary.
Okay. Yeah, right. But they're having an affair.
Okay.
She ends up dead.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. They don't know who killed him, the husband or somebody trying to keep...
Another conspiracy.
Well, she was dead as could be.
Well, she was dead, but nobody knows who did it.
No.
There had to be evidence somewhere.
It has to be, if the husband didn't order it, they think maybe Robert Kennedy through the CIA to say, hey, I don't want my brother in trouble. You know, Marilyn ended up that way. You know that.
Yep.
So now, interesting note. Marilyn Monroe had converted to Judaism.
Oh, I did not know that.
Oh, yeah. She converted to Judaism.
Oh.
She's now a devout Jew.
Okay.
Mickey Cohen goes to her and says, look, we want to know what JFK thinks about Israel, really.
Okay.
I mean, no BS.
Went direct.
What does he think about Israel? What's his stance? And what are we doing at Dimona? And so she gets, Mickey Cohen gets Frank Sinatra to introduce him. The rest is history.
Wow.
So their little pillow talk might have been going on there.
So did he reveal to her what his true stance was on Israel?
Who knows? Only
so
her
there's
and him while they were on the pillow,
Okay.
and maybe the Mossad.
Okay, so she didn't go back to the person that asked her to find that information out, Mickey.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
This is unknown.
No.
It's just to find that link out.
Sure.
Was
Wow.
deep diving.
Well, I learned something. I didn't know Marilyn Monroe converted to Judaism.
Yeah. Well, there you
I
go.
didn't know that.
Anyway.
Her real name was Norma Jean. Right?
Okay, so that is your conspirators. Those are your conspirators. So line those guys up, and you got the usual suspects.
That's it.
All right, now let's go on to the oil barons.
All right, let's do it.
All right, now, oil barons. Let's start with H.L. Hunt.
Okay.
And then Clint Murchison and a few others. They are just about. Kennedy wants to repeal the oil depletion tax. He wants it gone. That's 27.5% of their income.
Wow.
They stand to lose not
Probably
we're
not
talking-
billions. They charge
we're
trillions,
talking-
probably.
It's a tremendous amount of money.
Sure.
And Kennedy is adamant.
Okay.
They're making too much. They're not paying their share, like we've heard that today, right?
Right.
I want that off of there.
Sure.
So H.L. Hunt, who has backed LBJ since day one, happens to be the richest man in Texas,
Okay.
one of the richest in the world. He was backing LBJ to become president at the 1961 Democratic Convention.
Okay.
With some maneuvering, Kennedy outmaneuvered him, and Kennedy was actually almost forced to take LBJ, and LBJ had to be convinced. And what they told him is, listen, Lyndon, you're one heartbeat away from the presidency. All right? So they convinced him with
Even though
that.
Kennedy was a relatively young guy at the time.
He's the youngest president we've ever
Right.
elected. I
Right.
think he was 44, 45, something like that.
mid-40s.
Now, he takes the job.
Okay.
And H.L. Hunt says, well, he lost the battle, but we have not lost the war.
Okay.
The day after JFK is assassinated, he comes out and says to everybody, we just won the war. Now, supposedly, he is the financier, the
Okay.
beginning financier.
Okay.
Clint Murchison, who owned the Dallas Cowboys, I'm going to get some Dallas Cowboy fans mad at me, is also the next richest guy in Texas.
Okay.
And a couple other guys they throw into money. Supposedly, LBJ's attorney, a guy named Edward something or another.
We'll change the last names to protect the innocent.
Edward Walker, I think, or something
Okay.
like that. He's given a couple of $1 million to
Okay.
help plan it. They pay the assassins
Okay.
$50,000 each.
Okay. Which at that time was a lot of
A
money.
lot of
It
money
sounds like
back in
nothing nowadays.
1963.
Yeah.
And Murchison has a party on the night before the assassination.
Okay.
They all go into a conference room. And supposedly who's there is J. Edgar Hoover. What's he doing there?
Right.
Nixon.
Right.
What's he doing there? He said, oh, I'm here for a Pepsi-Cola, whatever, board meeting.
Right.
But they didn't have a board meeting on that day.
Okay.
Anyway, Nixon could never remember where he was. All right.
No. No.
He never could remember. He was introduced, by the way, we'll like this, by Robert Mayhew
Okay.
to the mob.
Okay.
I mean, Robert Mayhew, who was Howard Hughes' guy,
Right.
introduced the mobsters to the CIA.
Ooh.
Yeah, so our guy,
Okay.
who is Johnny Roselli,
Okay.
working for the Chicago Syndicate, is introducing the CIA guys to Sam Giancana, Santos Traficante, and that's how that
And the
ended
like,
up.
and the rest
right.
of the
So
party.
Vegas has got a little thing there. Now, okay, so that is the oil barons. They have this meeting in the conference room in Texas. They come out, and LBJ says to his mistress of many, many, many years, that's the last time those Kennedy son of a bitches will embarrass me, and that is not a threat. That's a promise.
So we talked about $50,000 that they got back in '63. Today, for that same offer, that $50,000 would be worth $436,000
A lot of money.
by today's money. Yes.
Exactly. So it was enough to
Entice them.
yeah, entice a nice carrot. Okay, so that is basically the oil barons and the financial part, but there's more on the financing part. Let's go to the Rothschilds.
Okay.
The Rothschilds had a company called Permadex.
Okay.
It's in Canada. Clay Shaw happens to be, and I think everybody remembers that from the JFK movie,
Right.
happens to be on the board.
Okay.
They're they're funneling money into Clay Shaw through the company
Okay.
to help get plutonium and guns forwarded over to Israel because they need them.
Okay.
So that's where that's coming from. And when it comes time to finance the big event, as LBJ always called it,
Right.
the Rothschilds are probably in there somewhere. They are worth supposedly $7 trillion, 100 times more than Bill Gates.
Jeez.
And every president that ever tried to go around The Rothschilds and the Fed, them and their cabal of bankers, or syndicate of bankers around the world, like the Rockefellers and the Brofmans and
anybody's got deep pockets,
really deep pockets.
Really deep pockets.
They're in there, and he issued an order number 11110 that said the U.S. is required by the Constitution to print its own money.
Okay.
So he immediately issues $5 billion worth of $2 and $5 U.S. certificates.
Aaron, I think if you put that picture back up, some of that detail's on there as well. Go ahead.
Okay. He issued $5 billion of $2 and $5 bills.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he was about to issue another $10 billion in 20s, 10s and 20s. He died very soon after.
Of natural causes, I'm sure.
The money was withdrawn immediately. Okay. The 20s and 10s were on the printing press. They were never released.
Right.
Here's an interesting fact, and you're going to like this one. LBJ rescinds the order on Air Force One on the plane back from Dallas to Washington with the body of JFK in the back.
Wow.
He rescinds the order right there. Every president from Lincoln, Garfield, and Jackson who has ever tried to get rid of the Fed, because the Fed makes money by printing money in ink and paper and charging us interest for it, and they make money with wars, because they finance all the wars, and they wanted Vietnam. So there you go. So that's the link with the Rothschilds. There is no more powerful entity or group in the world.
You know what? That's just I have to like process all of that.
Mind-boggling.
Because the connections and the lines and if somebody would have put this on the wall, like you see
could you
criminals
put this up here?
Yeah, we'll put that up when we come back.
Yeah, okay, put that up when we come back.
We'll put that up there in a minute. But like it's like the villain who's in their cave and they've got all the pictures and the yarn connecting everything. I mean, that's what it sounds like. But listen, as you're watching the show, though, please feel free to go to jfktheverdict.com. Cast your vote because you decide. You're the jury. We are the court of appeals, or whatever you want to call it, giving you the information for you to decide. Hey, we got a lot more to come. We'll be right back.
Hello, I'm Scott Goldsmith, author of Uninhabitable, A Case for Caution. And I've spent the last 20 years studying climate change problems and calamities all over the world. And I would like to tell you why it is important for you to consider to get prepared with long-term storage food and a backup power generator as soon as you possibly can. You must always have enough emergency storage food on hand to see your family through any emergency. Living insurance for 3 months up to 1 year is just good common sense in today's uncertain world. There's only 3 days worth of food in the distribution system nationally, so it's imperative that you have your own storage food. Go to sustainabilitysystems.inc.com. They have complete sustainability programs to fit any size family and any budget. There's no reason not to be prepared. Go to sustainabilitysystems.inc.com. That's sustainabilitysystems.inc.com. You'll thank us tomorrow.
All right, welcome back to very special and detail-oriented The Harsh Truth. Goldsmith weighs in. I'm Aaron Phillips. That is Scott Goldsmith. And I'll tell you what, we are here today because it is the 59th anniversary of the assassination of probably one of the most beloved presidents at that time, as a personality, so to speak. And we're going over much of the information that Scott was able to put together for us really to present, so that we want you to go to jfktheverdict.com, as you see there on the screen. Cast your vote right there on that website. Did he act alone? Did he have help? And right now, with all the information that Scott has provided thus far, in my opinion, if I were voting, and I'm waiting to the very end, by the way, till we hear everything. I used to believe it was Oswald by himself to some degree. Maybe he had help with one or two, the grassy knoll and all that stuff. But I'm going to tell you now, based on what I'm hearing, I think there's a lot more involved than just that, because a lot of people want the JFK ousted, and unfortunately, they went that extreme. Go to jfktheverdict.com, cast your vote.
Is the pieces of the conspiracy puzzle, did we put that one up? Is that
the
for
net?
the
Yep,
people
I
to
think
see?
there you go, right there.
Okay, this gives you a little idea to pull off something of this large
Magnitude,
web
yeah.
of a conspiracy and try to keep it undercover for as long as they have. By the way, it's taken 59 years of incredible deep dive research to come up with this information for you today.
And I want to share in the upper, well, you're looking at it on the screen, upper left corner there, you see Meyer Lansky's name right across the top there, because his name has come up quite often in many of the relationships that you've laid out there, many of the initial names. I mean, you can just see them all. Oh, we have a caller calling in. All right,
Okay,
we're
great.
going to go back to that in a second. Thank you for calling The Harsh Truth with Goldsmith Weighs In. Thank you for calling. Caller, your name and where are you calling from, please?
My name is Rita, and I'm calling from Las Vegas.
Hello, Rita from Las Vegas. Thank you for watching and calling in. Scott, take it away with Rita.
Hey, Rita, what question do you have?
Hi there.
Hi.
Hi, I just want to know if that's really true that Kennedy was seeing one of his aides' wives. Is that true?
Would you repeat that one more time?
Put your headset on.
Oh,
Yeah.
Hang on one second, Rita. We're going to
yep,
make
I
it
got
easier
All
on
right.
you.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Rita.
Please
Hello?
repeat your question.
Yes. Okay, yeah. Is it true that Kennedy was seeing one of his servicemen's wives on the side?
It's exactly true. He had a very long affair with one of the top CIA's wives, and her name was Mary, and it starts with an M. Her last name, I can't recall it at this moment, but they had an ongoing affair, and the CIA guy's name, I believe, was, I'm not sure if it was Cord Myers, or let me see who else that may have been. That may have been, I don't recall exactly what that guy's name is. I'll try to get it for you for the end of the show. But she ended up dead. When they were not sure, they never did find a killer, so they weren't sure if her husband had her done in. Of course, he was with the CIA, could have done it easily, or if there was somebody trying to protect the president. But either way, she ended up dead. And it was a top CIA, one of the top 3 CIA officials.
Wow. So do you think this will ever come to light about what happened to Kennedy?
You know what? They've been able to keep it undercover. The Israeli link has really never come up very much, which is a testament to how great they are at keeping things undercover. And a lot of these other links are just coming out in the last few years. So will all the information, the complete puzzle ever come out? I think on this show you're going to hear as complete a full picture of the broad breadth of this web of conspiracy as you're ever going to hear. But I expect other pieces of the puzzle to come out down the road. And I don't know, Rita, if they will ever allow the 16,000 documents that are in the National Archives to be released as President Clinton ordered, so that the American people who are supposedly supposed to run this country can see all the evidence and all the documents from the CIA, the FBI, the Secret Service. All the documents relating to the JFK assassination should be released right now. And I hope that people that are listening will call into the President of the United States, Joe Biden, and ask him to release those. They should be released now. There's no reason to release them in 2039 when everybody that's associated with this most tragic event in U.S. history, in my opinion, right up there with Pearl Harbor and 9/11, why we cannot see the documentation. I just think it's the U.S. people's right to know exactly what happened and the truth.
I agree. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rita,
Thanks for the
calling.
call in.
Appreciate
it.
I want to ask, the question I have in mind at
Sure.
this point is, as I said at the top, anybody who is involved or might know any information who was there, was part of it, obviously pretty much are probably all long gone by now.
Right.
16,000 documents. It has not, my question, because I don't think we'll ever see it. Do you believe at some point every piece of evidence that has been found, those 16,000 documents, do you think they will ever be released and that we will ever, quote unquote, know what really happened?
You know what? If you were the president of the United States, and you know that if you release those documents, it's going to point a finger at J. Edgar Hoover, the previous president of the United States, LBJ, your CIA, your chief of staff for all the armed services, and that we allowed the mob to go unchecked since 1950 because they had something on Hoover that he was gay. Do you think, if you're the president, you're going to say, "Yeah, it's a good day to release all that"?
Well, that's exactly.
Oh, and by the way, Israel's involved too.
Right, and there's a great relationship between the U.S. and Israel. But that's my point. That makes me think that those documents will never ever be released, never, because of that.
There's a very, very good chance they've redacted them. Even when they release them, they redact the hell out of them, so you can't read them anyway.
The only thing you can read on those is the page number, I think, at the bottom.
Right. You have got to trust. I don't know how many authors have written books on this, but there are plenty. There are researchers who have done acoustical research. You know, they proved to the Select Committee on Assassination that there were at least 4 shots.
Right.
And 2 of the gunmen, there's supposed to be 6 gunmen there, Aaron, firing 6 bullets.
Right.
4 of them hitting the president, 2 in the back, 1 through the throat, 1 in the side of the head.
Right.
And 2 of the assassins may have been using silencers, so they would not leave that echo trace.
Right.
So we're going to move on, I think, to the assassins.
Yes.
And if you're ready for that, let's jump in.
Let's do it, because as you mentioned, the number 6 is critical. If with 6 shots fired, and if it was a lone gunman in Oswald from the book building, he had a rifle. It's not like he had an automatic machine gun, and one of those shots was from the side of his head. How could Oswald have gotten a bullet that he's targeting straight out the window, which supposedly, I guess, is the one that hit the back of the head, if there's evidence of one on the side? I mean, that's what's...
Here's what I understand about the assassins, and I still think there may be one that has not been uncovered in the ones that. But there's Lee Harvey Oswald. Look at his connections. If you go back to 1955, he's already connected with Guy Bannister,
right,
and
David Ferry from the FBI.
Yeah, David Ferrier from
Jack Ruby.
He's starting. Now, he's recruited by Army intelligence to work for the counterintelligence, to work for the CIA, and they train him under the cover of naval intelligence, and that's where they train him.
Okay.
Now, they train him in Russian.
Okay.
So he becomes the guy that goes to Russia. I'm a Marxist. He goes to Russia.
Right.
The U-2 had already made dozens and dozens and dozens of flights.
Okay.
He gets in Moscow. The day after he gets in Moscow, they shoot the U-2 down. Now, the saying is that the CIA wanted to destabilize the détente thing and get things moving, and they were using him in Russia to accomplish that. Now he comes back. Guess who sends him the plane ticket and the money? The U.S. government. Gee, we can't wait to get this traitor back into our country. He becomes hello comrade to hello amigo.
Right.
Now he's he's a pro-Castro. Right. He has got the fingerprints of more CIA asset and FBI assets than you can possibly imagine. The guy who is paying the accountant for the CIA testified, the Select Committee again, these are that under a secret account, they'd been paying Lee Harvey Oswald all along. All along. Okay, so we'll get to that in a minute.
So
but go ahead.
I want to have you catch your breath for one second, because we're talking a lot about the mob here, obviously. And here in Vegas, we have a certain attraction The Mob Museum, which is
Oh, the
ironic.
Mob
We're
Museum.
talking about all
Yes,
this.
please give them a plug because they
absolutely.
deserve it.
And we want to thank them for helping
Supporting
with some
us.
of the information and supporting us. If you're coming to Vegas, I got to be honest
You
with you.
can't miss it.
You can't miss it. It's the old courthouse back in the day. But it is filled with so much information and stuff from an educational standpoint, folks. Let's be real. Educating people about the mob and their involvement with Vegas, if not, or maybe some of this. Check it out. We want to thank the Mob Museum wholeheartedly for their support.
Especially Michaela over there that
Yeah.
handles all the promotions.
Absolutely.
Now, they have a section on JFK. They will connect these dots for you just like we did for the mob.
Do you remember the show on TV, Quantum Leap, with Scott Bakula, where he leaps from time to time
Yeah,
to different
I do.
people? Well, he did an episode where he jumps into Lee Harvey Oswald. And as you're talking about how he went to Russia to learn Russian, and all that was in that episode,
Right.
Where you just talked about, and him going up to the window. Now, of course, in that story, they hinted maybe a lot more connection involved, but they really only focus on Oswald in the window. But some of what you're talking about was 100% portrayed in that episode. Quantum Leap. If you find the episode, check it out.
Okay, we'll
Just
do.
a small tidbit.
All right, now I'm gonna move from Oswald for just a minute.
Okay.
Okay. I've already pointed out. He, by the way, is getting $200 a month from the FBI as well.
Okay.
All right. He was constantly. He had a FBI handler,
Okay.
and he had a CIA handler named Lee Atlee Phillips.
Okay.
Okay, and I believe his handler for the FBI was Frank Sturgis. I'm not sure if that was his handler or James Angleton, but
Okay.
one of those.
Maybe even both of them.
Could have
Who knows?
been. Could have been. So he had handlers. He was
Okay.
getting paid. The FBI office was on this side over in New Orleans
Okay.
of the street, and the FBI was on the other side. And he was in both of them all the time.
All the time, okay.
So
Do they have tunnels underneath so we can go back and forth? Nobody's seeing him?
he's got fingerprints
Jeez.
all over him of being a CIA asset
Okay.
and a counterintelligence asset.
Okay.
Now, let's go over the Dealey Plaza. Can
Yes.
we pull up that Dealey Plaza picture and say what's going on here?
That's a heck of a shot.
Okay, here we go. Now, we're going down Elm Street where they have to slow down to make that hairpin curve. And once again, the mayor, who is a brother of the general who was fired from the CIA, is one of the people that determines the route of anything like this.
Right.
And they were supposed to go down Main Street straight and go right to the convention center. Didn't do it.
Right.
And, of course, they say they slowed down so much you could almost got out right in front of the grassy knoll area.
I just want to mention, as you're looking at the picture, at the very top is the depository where Oswald was set up, just so that you get the visual of how the car was coming as you see it there
Right.
towards the bottom.
Okay, now, I want you to, you have the picture, it's a fuzzy kind of picture. There's a picture of Oswald, if you can look for it.
Yes.
I want you to look for that. And this is something that is just incredible. When they came up with this photo and they got somebody to come forward and said, no, that's another employee of the school book depository, the Texas School Book Depository. And then they took this and they did facial recognition on this picture from every way that science can do it. And if you can show that, Aaron, for us.
Yep, it'll come up.
Okay. What they determined was that Lee Harvey Oswald is standing in the doorway.
There you are.
There you are. Lee Harvey Oswald is standing in the doorway of the school book depository.
We have another
We're gonna
phone
take a call.
Yes, we have another caller calling in. Thank you for calling the show. Where are you calling from and your name, please?
Hello.
Oh, caller hung up on us. No worries. Caller, call back.
Okay, so now put that picture back up for me, Aaron, again. All right, they take this picture. A guy comes forward named Loy who says, this is the guy it must have been.
Okay.
So they did all this scientific facial recognition. By the way, the guy's wearing a completely different outfit than Lee Harvey Oswald, and it's the guy in the picture has the exact same outfit that he's wearing when they get him at the theater.
Okay.
Some 90 minutes later. Okay. Now, he's watching Kennedy go by. So let me ask you something.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think you could sprint from the doorway of the school book depository all the way up to the 6th floor, grab a rifle, and then make 3 good shots?
Not without breathing very hard.
It's an impossibility.
Yeah.
So who is the guy in the school book depository? So let's figure out that to begin with. There's an elevator that goes up to that 6th floor that's used by service people.
Okay.
Supposedly, Mac Wallace, LBJ's personal assassin,
Okay.
who's been implicated in 7 to as many as 10 murders for LBJ on his way rise to power,
Okay.
is there with 2 other people, and he's the shooter. They find his fingerprint. They did fingerprint analysis on it. It's a 19-point match,
Okay.
almost perfect. It's Mac Wallace that's up there shooting.
Okay.
The interesting thing about that, is that they say it was that Cacarno rifle
Okay.
that he used, and one of the bullets that they retrieved is not from that. It's from a Mauser.
So now we have conflicting stories.
Now we
about
got
the
conflicting ammo,
Wow.
right?
Jeez.
Exactly. But they're able to use a casing that
Okay.
you can put around them. There's a name for it.
Okay.
And they can make it duplicate almost any millimeter
Gotcha.
of gun. So they think they might have had that. So that is our school book depository. We got 3 people up in the 6th floor.
Okay.
We got Oswald that watches the president goes by and goes up and has a Coke. That is where the police officer and the manager of the school book depository confront Oswald, who after he's confronted and the manager tells him no, he's okay, he works here, he walks out of the building and goes home. Now, all right, that takes care of who's shooting from the 6th floor. Now,
Right, hang on one second. I think we need to show this one here on the desk camera.
Yeah, this is a
might
good
show
one.
A good picture here.
This is a good one. All right.
We'll get it in frame for you. My hand
All
out of the
right.
way. There you
Now,
go.
this is an important one. This is on the other side of Main Street in a parking lot, maybe from a car window, but Tosh Plumlee, a CIA pilot, is in Dallas with an abort team.
Okay.
They're trying to abort the assassination of the president. They come in on a hazmat flight. They bring Johnny Roselli, that they don't know he's part of the hit team, but they bring him in and 2 Cubans and a bunch of other guys that are going to go around and see if they can call off this assassination attempt.
Okay.
They run into Charlie Nicoletti and try to convince him to call it off. They think they have.
Okay.
When they leave, James Files, one of the shooters, asked him, "Are we calling this off?" He said, "No, unless the old man calls us."
Referring to whom?
Referring to Sam Giancana.
Okay.
Everything's on. And so, here's where the shooters are lined up.
Okay.
Can we go back to that picture, please, of the Dealey Plaza? Okay. Right there in that pergola, see that round white thing? Oval?
Okay, next to the tree there, like
Yeah,
that center.
that's
okay?
called a pergola
Okay.
in there. On the front, in a ways out, standing on top of a pillar,
Okay.
is Abraham Zapruder. He's filming.
Okay.
One of the shots may have come from the pergola. All right? That's because they line up exactly
Sure.
where he was hit and how he was hit.
Okay.
From pergola. Now, James Files, who Nicoletti had tapped, a young associate of his, to be a backup, just in case it appeared that Kennedy wasn't hit.
Okay.
He was supposed to fire. He's got a Remington fireball. He's got an exploding bullet with mercury in it. He has one shot. He sees the president's got his hands on his throat, but it doesn't appear he's headshot.
Okay.
He sees his eye. He fires. It hits in his temple.
Okay.
He said he could see him as close as you and I are, Aaron.
Okay.
He said, I saw his head explode, and of course part of his skull went to the back, and that's when Jackie Kennedy
Climbed
jumped
off the
out,
back, right.
and Clint Hill jumped and pushed her back down.
Right. Okay.
All right, now, he's the guy behind the fence. Now let's go further. Can we get that up one more time? I'm sorry. See the trees almost to the end of the picture there?
Yeah,
Those
where
are-
it says grassy knoll area there?
Yeah,
Okay.
this is very close to the triple underpass.
Okay, right.
All right.
The bridge, right.
This is also where another shooter is. And the reason they do it, they've captured the photography of the puff of smoke and the smoke in the air. And Taj Plumley says, I'm smelling gunpowder.
Okay.
So it's either coming from that parking lot on Main Street or from here, because it
from
couldn't
here.
come from the 6th floor because it go up.
And the grassy knoll shooter or whoever
Could be
that's
three.
but that's always been part of the discussion as to whether somebody was there at the grassy knoll taking a shot.
Here's the interesting thing. James Files shoots, sees the hit, takes the casing out, bites on it, puts it on the fence, puts his gun back in the case, puts it in one of those electrical boxes,
Right.
turns his coat around, and walks away. Now, people are rushing up.
Sure.
FBI with badges, Secret Service with badges, Dallas policemen with badges are turning them all away. Nobody was up there, according to the CIA, the FBI, or the Dallas Police Department. The shooter in the bushes there is Lucian Sarti, who is dressed as a police officer. And they got his picture on a car. So that's where that shot's coming from. Now, 2 shots miss. One shot hits the curb and chips off the side of the curb.
Okay.
And wounds a bystander.
Okay.
That missed. Another one of the shooters pulled their shot because Jacqueline Kennedy had gotten to a telescope and he was afraid he was going to kill her.
Gotcha.
He pulled his shot and it went into the grass.
Okay.
That leaves, pull that back up one more time, I'm sorry. That leaves our school books depository. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
The Dallas Tech's building, right behind it, that's where Nicoletti is. See
Right.
where a clear shot from that one. That's a building right behind the Texas School Book Depository.
Yep.
You got the guys on the grassy knoll, and you got the guy in the parking lot across from Main Street, firing out of maybe a car window or something. That's the bullet that hit him in the throat.
Okay.
Can you pull up the window, the windshield of the limo?
Because that's the one where you see in the films where he's clutching his throat, kind of leaning forward.
And if you see where the position of that bullet is, in the windshield of the car, by the way, which 25 people witnessed, including 3 motorcycle policemen,
Right.
one of them a sergeant, affidavit that there was a hole in the windshield. You never heard about it. Warren Commission never mentioned it. And here it is right here. I don't know if they could pull that up on that screen, but there's the Kennedy limo. There is the picture of the limo with a hole in it.
Is that the hole right there?
Yeah, that's a hole right there. So that had to come up from the right, didn't it? I mean, they had to come from that angle that you just showed. You want to show that one again?
Which one?
This one.
This one?
Yeah, see if that doesn't line up. And then there's a picture with him holding the throat at the same exact moment. See how that angle lines up?
Right, because here's the grassy knoll, right?
Yeah, that's
My
right.
hands in
We're
the way.
talking the other side of Main
Right,
Street
right.
now.
So we're talking over here.
Yeah, right. It could have been the post office. That's the post office.
Okay.
But it would have taken a really good shot from there. But I think the parking lot on the other side of Main Street makes no sense because it's a perfect angle.
Mhm.
So now you got 3 shooters in the knoll. You
Right.
got Mac Wallace up on the 6th School Depository. You got Nicoletti
Right.
sitting in the Caltex building.
Right.
You got Johnny Roselli in the storm drain, right? Okay. And a guy from England came over and did a laser analysis.
Okay.
And the shot where he's going like that
Right.
perfectly lines up with the storm drain.
Jeez.
So you got at least 5 to 6 shooters. They shot 6 bullets in 5.6 seconds.
So let me ask you this question. So far, all the shots you're talking about, there's one name that you haven't mentioned yet, and that's Oswald.
Oswald is a patsy.
Right.
He can't get out of there alive.
Right.
And so, there's her trying to pick up part of the brain, the skull of the president, which was, by the way, 8 to 10 centimeters wide. Okay? And if you'll see the Warren report, he's got a tiny hole They did a great job.
So that's the president slumped over in the back seat.
Yeah.
And of course, that's the CIA.
That's Clint
Secret
Hill.
Service.
That's Clint Hill.
And wasn't it at this point when they first started the Secret Service to protect presidents, or somewhere right around here? Maybe a year before or a year after?
I don't know, but I haven't mentioned the Secret Service here because I don't know if they were involved. But
No. I'm just saying in terms of just protecting the president. And
let
the
me
vice
add
president.
something to that, though.
Okay.
There are quite a few red flags. Two of the main guys were left at the airport going, what the hell? They slowed down to a point
Right.
that it was a crawl.
Right.
The Secret Service is not out of the woods here.
Right.
Next show, maybe. All right. Okay. All right. Now.
So this was the newspaper.
Yep.
I can't see the date. If that was probably the next day, I guess.
Yep. Now, within 14 minutes, they have a full description of Lee Harvey Oswald out on the radio.
I wonder how that happened.
Oh, yeah. An exact description.
Jeez.
Now, he's supposedly going home, but where he's really going is he's going to a safe house that he's been meeting Cubans at because he can hide out there,
Okay.
and they'll get him out of Texas and probably over. They had a plane, by the way. Now, there's one more guy in here that we have to mention. I'll tell you who it is if I can find him here.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
There's one more guy who may have been somewhere, I can't tell you where, but he kept telling all of his friends that he was there to help assassinate Kennedy, and he worked for Santos Traficante. His name is Herminio. I got it. You under assassins? Can
Do I
you
have
look
that over there?
Yeah, you got it. You got it. And he said, we took care of the son of a bitch in Dallas, and we took care of the little son of a bitch in L.A., and he was in both places. So there may be a Traficante Cuban assassin that was in the neighborhood, and he could have been in the post office. He could have been in the other building, but there are 6 shooters.
And we talk about this.
How many have we mentioned? We mentioned
Too many.
Mac Wallace.
You need a whole scorecard.
No. Mac Wallace. We got Charlie Nicoletti. We got Johnny Roselli. We got James Files. We got Lucian Sarti. We're missing Hermanio, whatever his name is, the Cuban. And a plane was on the tarmac in Florida that they made wait for 6 hours till somebody showed up, that they took immediately. This is our man. He was in there somewhere, and whenever we'd drink, he would tell all his friends that he was part of the assassination team. What's his name? It's Herminio Diaz.
Herminio Diaz.
So there's your Cuban connection. Interesting fact. You're going to like this. Castro, they've been trying to kill him for a couple of years. He said if it was an Olympic event, he would get the gold medal for sidestepping assassination. He supposedly had 3 hit teams in America looking for the president.
Did you mention James Files?
Yeah, he's the actual shooter, and there's his gun.
Yeah, and then he is spotted here, back here in this
That's
parking lot.
that's a picture. The badge man, he's the badge man.
Gotcha.
Okay, now James File, keep that up there for a moment. They kept the plane on Cuba for this Diaz guy, supposedly, for 6 hours, and then he did not go through security or anything, went right after the plane and went straight to Cuba.
Okay.
Castro took all of his listening antennas, he listened to everything that was going on in Washington. The day before, he turned it to Dallas. He had to know.
Sure.
He had to know. Okay, now, James Files has confessed to being the shooter behind the fence. He did something like 50 years for killing a federal judge. He got out a few years back. He's been on many documentaries. He bit the bullet. He shows them the gun. Want to show that fireball? Again, the James File. There's a gun he used. He has never been found to have lied about anything about the JFK assassination that he's told FBI. These documentarians don't just let anybody jump on and say what they want.
Sure.
They check everything out. They look for any fact that might not be correct. James Files, one of the shooters, he was about 20 years old at the time. He had been working for the Chicago outfit as a runner and a hijacker, and working for Nicoletti as a driver. He's the guy that agreed to do the backup, and he's the guy who took the shot. Now, there's your 6 shooters. Okay, 6 shooters, 6 bullets, 4 hit the president. 2 in the back. 2 may have hit him in the head at the same time. Roselli, Files, because they blew off a big part of his head. And 1 in the, 2 in the back, 1 in the throat.
We have a picture here of the
I'm going to try to make it.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Hang on
Very
one
good.
second.
Yeah.
There we go. Let's see if that'll help.
Yeah, those are the shots.
Right.
Those are the shots.
I like what it says there. Possible bullet paths. Possible.
Yeah.
In terms of where they think the trajectory was coming from, as we've been talking about.
Based on body movements, based on forensics, based on everything. This is the most, Aaron, researched crime in the history of all crimes.
You think it'll ever come to an end?
No,
Not
because
until we
they're
get an
never going
answer,
to change
right?
the narrative.
Right.
They won't allow us to have the real narrative. They're going to say it was a lone gunman.
Right.
Even though Dulles is on the Warren Commission.
Right.
The general's on the Warren Commission. The FBI is controlling every piece of evidence.
Right.
From Bethesda, from Parkland Memorial, all the way through his burial. They're intimidating.
right.
They are threatening. They are changing the story of anybody who does not comply with the official narrative. Even the media is complicit here, because within an hour,
Sure.
they were saying this is the guy.
Right.
And they never changed it, never allowed any more information to be released. So
before we go to our next break,
Yep.
this will give our producer a second or two. We have a sheet of some interesting facts, and I want to share a couple of them as we get ready to go into break.
Sure.
Number one, on November 11th, 1963, President Kennedy laid a Veterans Day wreath at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldiers, as presidents generally do, and he would be buried at the cemetery exactly 2 weeks later. This was the 4th presidential assassination in a nation that was less than 200 years old. And it was the first assassination since the Secret Service began protecting presidents. Just a couple of tidbits of information. With that, we're to step aside so Scott can catch his breath. You are the jury, America.
vote.
Make sure you vote. JFKtheverdict.com. Was Oswald alone? Or did he have some help? And obviously, I know which way I'm going. We'll be right back with more.
Sure, you want to be better prepared for any emergency in the uncertain world that we live in today? Sustainability Systems, Inc. has made it easier than ever before to have enough emergency storage food on hand to provide for your family. That's worry-free hunger insurance that your family will always have enough food on the table to meet any emergency. Sound good? But the budget's tight right now, right? How does less than a cup of coffee a day sound? That's just $39.95 a month, and Sustainability will send you a full bucket of delicious, ready-to-serve meals every quarter until you have built up enough storage food with a 25-year shelf life to take care of your family. Go to yourlifeboat.net. That's yourlifeboat.net. Or call us today at 1-800-713-4628. And please don't delay and be caught needing it but not having it. 1-800-713-4628. You'll thank us tomorrow.
This is the story of one man's incredible journey from 350 to 200-pound weight loss and his mission to help and inspire others. Aaron Phillips. People are praising Aaron's new book with 5-star reviews. Aaron's various humorous and wildly entertaining stories portray his rise as a sports announcer, his encounters with exotic and irregular entertainers on the Las Vegas Strip through his long-running Vegas Unwrapped radio show, and his contagious and positive style of pursuing success. Call now or visit our website or Amazon now to get your copy of Let My Voice Speak to You, stories from a Hall of Fame radio personality. Order now.
All right, welcome back to a special edition of The Harsh Truth. Goldsmith weighs in. That's Scott Goldsmith. I'm Aaron Phillips. And of course, Today being the 59th anniversary of the assassination of John F. Kennedy, we are diving into the facts that, as we know them, as Scott has known them, and we want you, America, to participate. JFK, the verdict. You are the jury. You need to go to jfktheverdict.com, cast your vote. One man, multiple men. That's a simple question. And if you've listened to the first hour and so plus minutes of the show, I have a funny feeling that we know where it's going, or where I would vote if I had the screen in front of me, because it does not seem like the one gunman, one bullet kind of thing with 6 shots in his body from all different angles, unless he's the Flash, to run all across that area to be able to shoot from different trajectories. It would appear that what we're talking about, there's no way that it could have been Oswald alone. So let's go to the tabletop camera, if you don't mind, Mr. Producer, because we have something here that came out.
I'm going to move it over here for the notes because the actual copy is a little difficult to see. This is from John McCone. He was a director of the CIA. It was a memorandum on the assassination and the training of Lee Harvey Oswald. Oswald quietly added to the CIA's fallen CIA agents, and the CIA accountant James Wolcott testified that he made payments to an encrypted account for Oswald. And I didn't think the word encrypted back in those days was even around when it came to.
They're the only ones that had it.
Yeah, I was going to say. So this was from the director of the CIA at the time. So
they're the fingerprints of Lee Harvey Oswald are
everywhere,
all over the CIA, the FBI, and counterintelligence. Now, while we're on the subject of the shooters, they have done not only acoustics and forensics and echo analysis and fingerprints and laser, direction of the bullets. They have done so much research on this assassination that the evidence of more than one bullet, more than one assassin
overwhelming.
is almost incontrovertible at this point.
Right.
I mean, if the assassination committee themselves came up with it, yes, there was more than one gunman, and they got 4 echoes that was picked up by the motorcycle policeman's mic that was on.
Right.
And those echoes can only come from bullet kind of sound.
They're specific to that
sound.
sound.
Yeah, there were no fireworks that day. Okay.
No.
So,
there were, but on a very different level.
Right. So now Kennedy's shot.
Okay.
He's dead.
Yep.
They said they tried to resuscitate him at Parkland, but no. Now they goes to Parkland. Obviously, Jacqueline Kennedy is out of her mind and distraught. LBJ has a Secret Service guy with a AK-15 or whatever they had, 16 with him. He takes him into the back room and he starts talking to different people. By the way, an interesting point. I want to point this out. JFK's coming around the corner. They see him 5-10 seconds before the shot, maybe even 15, scrooched down into the back of the seat.
Really?
With his little walkie-talkie. And if you're in just a regular parade for a political event, he's down on the floorboard doing this.
Wow.
And they got that on film. And they asked him why. And the cover-up was, we pushed him down to, but it was before the shot.
Right. So who could he have been talking to then on the walkie-talkie?
They don't know because he was talking
so
low.
low?
Right.
Wow.
So that's the LBJ thing.
Do you think when he came down Elm Street, for whatever the reason, that at that point he had any sense that something could have happened? Remember we talked about how his team around him, nobody said anything. They kept everything quiet. But do you think at some point in this trip that he may have said, you know what, Jacqueline, this could be a very ugly trip, or had some sense something could happen?
Now, the research indicates they tried to kill him in 3 places. Miami, Chicago, and Dallas.
Okay.
All right? Those 3 places. And they may have been stewing something up in L.A. because he was in L.A. the previous September or something,
Gotcha.
So, but those 3 places were the places they were going to get him at 1.
Wow.
They found out the guys in Chicago. They found their guns, and the landlady turned them in, and they were gone. The Miami, they changed his route.
Okay.
Changed his route so they didn't have a shot at it.
Okay.
But in Dallas, it all came together for him.
Wow.
Now, they are going to Parkland Hospital.
Okay.
There's 25 people in that room.
Okay.
The doctor that's holding his head, and I think I don't know if I brought a picture of it, of his skull, I think it's in there, said, I'm looking at it, and it's an 8 to 10 centimeter hole in the side of his head. And by the time they took the casket out of there, by the way, if it's a murder in Texas, it had to stay in Texas. That's the law. Because at the time, Aaron, there was no crime.
It wasn't a federal
crime
law, right? I saw that.
against shooting a president. That's why they.
Unfortunately, I don't have that piece. I'm sure.
Oh,
it's
okay,
buried
yeah,
in there,
it's down there somewhere. It's a hole about that big.
right. Maybe Aaron can find.
Yeah,
a picture
right
on it.
there. He found it.
Oh, got it. There.
That's
you go.
how big it is. You're looking at it.
Wow. Yeah, but any damage to the skull? I mean,
But that's not a small bullet from the back.
no.
That's a blowout bullet from the
side,
front
yeah.
or the side. From
Right.
how about the storm drain?
Right.
Or, that would be perfect, wouldn't it?
Right.
All right.
So what's that red dot though on the backside of the head?
That's where the bullet was supposed to be.
Oh.
That's what it ended up after they doctored everything up.
Wow.
That's what his head looked like. And here's an interesting story. All right, they're there. They take the casket out. They take it over to Air Force One. They can't get it on because of the handles. It's too big. They break the handles off
Jeez.
of the casket. There's the limo in the back, in the
Right.
blood of the president.
Jeez.
They take the handles off. They stuff it in there. LBJ will not wait. It's 96 minutes after the president's been shot or
Okay.
some damn thing or pronounced dead, and he wants to take the oath of office. Has them make Jacqueline Kennedy come out. She refuses to change her clothes. She said, I want them to see what they've done to Jack.
Right.
He winks. There's a perfect picture of him winking somewhere on our slides here at a congressman.
Jeez.
Takes the oath of office, becomes president. Oh, my God. Is that, yeah? Oh, gee. Duplication of JFK skull. Does that look like a back shot to you?
No.
Nope. Anyhow, so now they've got to cover it up. Now the FBI's in it. They confiscate every camera, every film they can find except for Zabruders. Okay? Every one. They never show up again. All right? They're on the plane. They go to Bethesda Naval Hospital. Now, this one's a good one, guys. 6 young Marines are tapped to take a casket out that is like a Vietnam casket, okay? One of those little, kind of metallic little caskets. It's not this 9,000 bronze casket
Right.
that went in.
Right.
And they take it into the coroner's office.
Okay.
Not up to the autopsy room, into the coroner's office.
Okay.
There they can do their magic. That's their magic act. He comes out looking pretty good after that. Toupee and all, or whatever they did to do cosmetically, get
Right.
it where they want it. 2.5 hours later, he goes up with another set. And the Marines, of course, are testifying to this and doing affidavits. Now he's going up in the bronze casket
Right.
to the autopsy. That is total chaos.
Jeez.
Total chaos. The FBI is confiscating every picture taken. They are looking at the x-rays. The x-ray guy says, I see all these fragments in his brain. And it has to come from an exploding bullet.
Right.
His brain disappears.
So there's nothing there.
There's no
after the shot.
No.
The brain matter.
No, the brain's there, but after the autopsy,
Oh, it's missing.
it's missing. It's never surfaced again.
Jeez.
And that's weird. He has no brain now.
Right.
It's gone
Right.
because it's got metal fragments in it
Sure.
and mercury in it.
Yeah.
They're going to know, right? So it's just like the dress. If they take the dress out before 2103, the blood spatter to any idiot is going to show where the shot came from.
Sure. Just based on the direction. Right.
Right. Okay. Now, in fact, the 3 motorcycle police officers said this. How I got brain blood and bone on my face from a back shot will never reconcile with me.
Right.
It had to come from the side. Okay, that's that. Now,
do we know if any of those police officers or the military guys, are they around, or are they? Do
there's
we know?
still people alive, like Clint. He just wrote a book. Clint
Okay.
Hill, the guy in the back of the limo helping Jacqueline,
Right.
he's still around.
Okay.
Wrote a little book of his time with Jacqueline.
Right.
They're there, and that's why I'm out here. I'll tell you the reason I'm here. Mm-hmm. And I spent so much work and effort to try to get this story right. Is I'm 18 years old, I get my draft card.
Okay.
It's 1969. I'm on my way to Vietnam, and I'm going to join the Marines.
Right.
If I do, I probably wouldn't be talking to you today. Mm-hmm. Now, had a fiance, and she had a kid, and she said, Scotty, I looked in the paper. I don't see any jobs for machine gunners, mates. Mm-hmm. Why don't you and we plan to get married in May. Let's just get married. I did. I think it saved my life.
Okay.
Because there was a deferment back then if you had a child.
Gotcha.
So I didn't go. I didn't die. Show that picture of the draft.
On the desk here, we have it. It'll pop up there.
We move that. Would you show
I think it
the
has that
last
one.
call that Lee Harvey Oswald made, please, before we go over to the aftermath?
I hope people are taking notes. Like, if you're sitting on a jury, most jury folks take notes during a trial.
How do you get a shot through a windshield from the back?
Well, yeah, I mean, just physics can't even explain that.
All right. This is the last call that Lee Harvey Oswald ever made. He was dead 8 hours later. He's got his right to one phone call, right?
Yep.
He goes in. There's two ladies that run the switchboard.
Okay.
Two guys come in. We don't know if they're FBI or if they're CIA, but they tell him exactly how to handle it. He calls a guy in Raleigh, North Carolina called John Hurt. Now, this has to be his only phone call. This is an important phone call, right?
Sure.
Guess who he calls? John Hurt, Raleigh, North Carolina, who just happens to be North Carolina Special Agent for U.S. Army Counterintelligence. Now, if you just killed the president, Aaron,
I'd
is
be
that the
calling
last
a
call?
lawyer.
I'd be
No.
calling a lawyer, right?
I'm calling a lawyer.
He calls Army Intelligence, Counter-Army Intelligence. What does that tell you? He's a patsy.
Somebody's pulling strings.
That's right. And he's trying to get out now that he knows he is the patsy.
Right.
All right. So that's Lee Harvey Oswald. I feel, even though he was an undercover guy and doing probably a lot of clandestine stuff for the government, he probably did a lot of nefarious stuff.
Right.
I think in this particular case, he did not shoot the president. Now let's go over to Tippit. The witnesses that said they saw somebody not described as Oswald shoot him, different height, different clothes, they forced him, of a weeks of forcing him, to change his testimony that, yes, it was definitely Lee Harvey Oswald.
Wow.
And they put that in front of the Warren Commission. Now, when they got Lee Harvey Oswald, how many times was Tippit shot? Do you remember? 4?
I think so.
Yeah, 4, 1 in the head. When they found Lee Harvey Oswald, he had a 6-shooter, a 38, in the theater. When they got him, it had 6 rounds in it. Nothing had been fired.
Could somebody have switched the gun with a full round?
That's what they had to do, is they had to change the forensics.
Right.
But once again, the mayor is
Controlling things. Pulling the
could be.
strings.
He has the power to get cooperation.
Sure.
Let's put that. But if the bullets in the body of Tippit don't match the gun,
Right.
and he's got a full case, a full cylinder of 38 bullets,
Right.
I don't think he was carrying an extra box with him. Do you?
No, probably not.
All right. So let's just say there's a decent possibility that not only was he the patsy, but he's an innocent man in these crimes that has been wrongly accused by everybody. And will go down in history
Right.
as the person who killed the president, whether we do this show 10 times a day or not.
Go to jfktheverdict.com, cast your vote. Do you believe he did it?
Or was it
did
a
he-
vast conspiracy, high level?
Right. or where there are a lot of other people involved. All right. Did you want to take a quick break? You want to keep going into the aftermath?
No, one break. Let's do a break.
We are going to continue with some stuff called the aftermath. What happened after the president was shot in our country and other items. And then we'll call for your vote one more time. And by the way, one additional thank you to the Mod Museum here in Las Vegas, being supportive of this show today. We appreciate them very much. Don't go anywhere. More with The Harsh Truth right after this.
Hello, I'm Scott Goldsmith, author of Uninhabitable, A Case for Caution. And I've spent the last 20 years studying climate change problems and calamities all over the world. And I would like to tell you why it is important for you to consider to get prepared with long-term storage food and a backup power generator as soon as you possibly can. You must always have enough emergency storage food on hand to see your family through any emergency. Living insurance for 3 months up to 1 year is just good common sense in today's uncertain world. There's only 3 days worth of food in the distribution system nationally, so it's imperative that you have your own storage food. Go to sustainabilitysystems.inc.com. They have complete sustainability programs to fit any size family and any budget. There's no reason not to be prepared. Go to sustainabilitysystems.inc.com. That's sustainabilitysystems.inc.com. You'll thank us tomorrow.
Go Live Vegas Studios, a unique multi-camera social media virtual content creators paradise. We offer high-end services using live streaming and film production for your personal or corporate, commercial or event and campaign needs. Pre-record or live stream to your audience on multiple social media platforms simultaneously. Fun and interactive with social media comments, phone lines, live remotes, audio Foley sounds, and Snapchat filters. Be creative, get recognized, and make money. We help you by providing an all in-house production team. Visit our website at golive.vegas.
All right, welcome back to The Harsh Truth. Goldsmith weighs in. This is a very special episode where today is the 59th anniversary of the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. And we are going over whatever information Scott was able to uncover and find in his research. And so far, it has been a lot. At the end of the show or now, just open up another tab on your computer. Go to jfktheverdict.com. And we ask you to cast your vote. You, America, are our jury as you're hearing the testimony from the information that Scott has provided. Go to jfktheverdict.com, cast your vote now. After the show ends, ask your friends to vote. If you missed anything, boy, this is a show that you must watch over and over again because it'll be a while before those 16,000 documents get released. So this is about as tight of information as one could get. So on the desk here, we're going to switch into the aftermath as well as, let's say,
So Estes, we're giving or building, getting farmers to buy silos and warehouses to store their food in, their grain, their corn, and all that stuff, and leasing it back to the government. So $25 million a year, Billy Sol, Estes, and Bobby Baker, and LBJ were pulling in.
God bless
The
them.
only problem is that they didn't bother building any of the silos or the warehouses.
They didn't.
No.
There's a shock.
Yeah. So now the Life is magazine has done 2 different stories on this.
Okay.
They're going to do a 3rd one in December, which will end LBJ's career probably.
Gotcha. Okay.
LBJ finds out from Nixon at the Clinton Murchison's meeting the night before that the Kennedys plan on appointing another vice president and dropping him from the 64 ticket. So he's going to be out of power, probably going to jail. So he becomes president on the 22nd of November, 99 minutes after the president's declared dead, and Life decides they can't put out the article with a sitting president.
Okay.
So he skates. Dimona, which was a weekly meeting at the White House because of the nuclear capability that was being developed,
Right.
was never mentioned again. Israel gets the A-bomb in 1966.
Okay.
J. Edgar Hoover, who has to retire next year because he's 64 going on 65, and it's a mandatory retirement,
Okay.
is now pardoned by the new president, who is also his neighbor and his friend and the guy covering up the crime.
Wow.
And he gets to keep his job till he dies. A guy did a deep dive on J. Edgar Hoover, saying, I was trying to find one little piece of humanity in J. Edgar Hoover, and he
Probably
said,
nothing.
I couldn't find it. He may have also been linked to Martin Luther King.
Okay.
RFK would never be allowed to be president. The mob was never going to allow that because the first thing he would do would be to open up the whole JFK investigation.
Okay.
So that was never going to happen. Now, the CIA, they now can do whatever they want. They are no longer under threat of having their autonomy threatened or being broken to 1,000 pieces. They're happy.
Right.
NASM order number 263 is rescinded the day after JFK is buried, saying, no, we're not getting out of Vietnam, we're going in.
Okay.
The Joint Chief of Staffs could not be happier. They're happy. The oil barons, the depletion tax is never revoked,
Right.
and as long as LBJ's in office, they make over $100 million in those days' terms in the savings they got by not having their depletion tax go from 27.5 down to 15%.
Jeez.
Now, the Rothschilds are happy, and the Fed's happy,
Right.
and the international banking system with the Rockefellers, the
Right.
Brofmans, the Stearns, you name it. They're happy, and I'm just not saying Jewish names. There's a lot of people.
There's
that
a lot
own
of
banks
people involved.
that are in that. A lot of people.
Right.
They're happy because even though that order's never been rescinded
Right.
by something, I think. Oh, yes, it was. I'm sorry. It was rescinded on the plane
Right.
carrying the body of JFK into Bethesda Naval Hospital.
Okay.
He rescinded it on the Air
On the
Force
plane.
One. Okay, they're happy.
Okay.
Let's see, who else is happy here? Castro's happy.
Sure.
Castro's a happy guy. He said, I should have got a gold medal for sidestepping assassinations by you guys.
Jeez.
He's happy. I think everybody had a motive and was happy with the outcome except for the American people who
Right.
loved him.
Right.
And Lee Harvey Oswald, which I can't figure out his motive. He never said a word to anybody that he hated Kennedy.
Right. Wow.
So out of everybody, the
What was
only
his
guy with a
personal
motive,
life? What was his personal life before they came to him? Was he just a loner? Was he?
Well, he was a spook. He was a CIA counterintelligence agent.
But
He
before
kept-
that, before all that, before he was approached to, I mean, because you look at his pictures, he does not look like your typical CIA spy or agent.
Do we have the picture showing him and all? Yeah, we show the one. With
Yeah, but I'm sure
Ferrier.
Aaron can pick it up.
Yeah, and the other guy, I'm trying to think of his name right now.
Well, but here he is. This is after, he's
yeah.
in custody. I mean, he doesn't look like a guy that would be in the CIA. I mean, how did he get? I mean, he's got a torn T-shirt on there.
A lot of people are taking that picture of the gun and saying that may not have been real. I don't know. I can't comment
Right.
on that.
I
I
mean,
try
here's-
not to comment
Right.
on anything that I don't myself
Sure.
feel is valid evidence.
I mean, this is a picture we've seen circulated for many
Yeah,
years.
and they don't know. There's some evidence
Okay.
there that says it might have been doctored a little bit. They do know that the gun that
Right.
had no fingerprints on it,
Right.
the coroner said the FBI came in the next day
Right.
and put black stuff all over his hand and made sure there was a palm print.
Okay.
And so, we know there was no fingerprints on the gun.
Jeez.
All right, let's see. So the aftermath of this is this. Got a lot of happy people. We got our war going.
Right.
57,220 young men go to their death in Vietnam from 1964 all the way up, and 65 all the way up to 1973. As many wounded, just as many wounded. That's 58,220. Just as many wounded. Actually, wounded, they say, with all the wounds, is 303 1,000. The Warren Commission and evidence are killed under mysterious and violent circumstances. They didn't check his phone records because he got 70 calls to top-level mafia guys because he started out with Al Capone in Chicago as a driver and, for his beer trucks.
Right.
And ended up working for Sam Giancana. And he had 70 phone calls to Trafficante, Sam Giancana, other high-level guys. So did they just say, hey, we missed him at the school book depository, go get him?
Right.
Or maybe this. Maybe, oh, and by the way, the mobsters would have said, you're probably going to be a hero for killing the guy who killed the president. So don't worry about it, Jack. Things will be fine. Go kill him. And Jack's probably stupid enough to buy that. But the other thing is now Jack Ruby had met with Lee Harvey Oswald and James Files at least 3 times. Mm-hmm. Guess who supplied the badges for the fake FBI, the fake Secret Service, and the fake Dallas police guys? Lee Harvey Oswald gave it to him. He supplied them.
Okay.
He also may have brought in the guns. I don't know about that. There's 2 or 3 things. The CIA supposedly drove them in. Anyway, that's the idea.
We're not certain how they were armed.
Right. But they got there.
They got there.
But here's the thing. He may have said, look, they can put me with this guy at least 3 other separate locations.
Right.
I got to kill him.
Right.
Or I'm the next one that's getting arrested.
Right.
And there's a third possibility. Third possibility is that if they can take all this and blame it on Cuba somehow with this Hernandez Diaz guy and Lee Harvey and all that, and they're all associated with this camp out in Florida where they're all training to be, Castro guys. If they can pin that, they might be able to blow it up enough so that the Joint Chiefs of Staff can actually go into Cuba.
Okay, to give them a reason.
To give them a reason.
Okay.
So those are the 3 reasons why, and of course to shut him up.
Couple of interesting notes about the killing of Oswald. Oswald's murder by Jack Ruby on the 24th was the first homicide caught on television. A police detective who was at the shooting claims to have called out, quote unquote, "Jack, you son of a beep."
Yep.
When wrestled to the ground by police, Ruby cried out, "I'm Jack Ruby. You all know me." And Oswald died at the same hospital as Kennedy 2 days and 7 minutes after the president.
Wow, that's interesting. Can we put this pieces of the conspiracy puzzle up again, please? I just want to show one of the guys who helped plan this is a guy named Lee K. Harvey. He was a top CIA guy who got demoted by RFK.
Gotcha.
Hated RFK. He gets sent over to exile in Italy.
Okay.
At the CIA office there. He may have been one of the masterminds because he learned from MI6 when he was in London how to commit a assassination, find a fall guy or a patsy, cover it up so that it never ever surfaces. So William K. Harvey, a low-key guy that looks like, any one of your CIA guys, may have been one of the chief planners.
He was on the right side in that picture in the purple, one of the purple lines there in that picture.
Now, if you were going to kill the President of the United States, and you didn't know where you were going to get him and how you were going to do it, you would need a lot of people.
Right.
And a lot of money.
Right.
And a lot of everything to pull it off and not get caught.
Sure.
That is not an easy trick.
Not at all.
So if you look at that, you can see why it's such a broad web of conspiracy that if you take all the evidence, you took the bullet through the windshield, Lee Harvey Oswald standing in the doorway, the forensics of where the shots and the head movements come from, the mobsters that are involved, the confessions, the jailhouse, they got many, many hours of Carlos Marcello when he's in jail, who hated RFK with a passion because RFK actually had him deported to Guatemala or something up in the middle of the rainforest and without any money or anything and said, you're deported. It took him like 2 months to get back into the country.
Wow.
And he went through hell. He hated RFK. He said to his cellmate, the FBI have it on tape, I killed the son of a bitch and I wish I could do it over.
Wow.
So you got his confession. You got E. Howard Hunt, his deathbed confession saying, I was one of the 3 tramps. Yes, we killed him. And we also was trying to get rid of Nixon because we thought he was soft on communism. And the way we did him was to be part of Watergate and make sure that got caught. Now, that's what he said on his deathbed
Sure.
to his sons.
Right.
Now you've got that, you've got the forensic, you've got the ballistic, you've got the fingerprints, you've got the photographic evidence, you got Zapruder's film, you got all this. If you took all this and put it in front of a jury,
Right.
what do you think they would say? The American grand jury.
Right. American grand jury, remember what the rule is that you have to provide evidence beyond shadow of a doubt. And if I were sitting on that jury, I know that I would vote multiple conspiracy got JFK killed.
Now, I do want to say this. We are presenting evidence
That's
that's
all.
been gathered. We have no axe to grind here. We are not trying to point our finger at anybody or besmirch anybody's
Nope.
reputation. But if they did it and they were involved, I don't care who they are.
Right.
Nobody is above the law.
Absolutely.
They need to be outed. They need to have the evidence out there. And if the government, if one thing this show would do, if you'd tell a friend to watch it, and you would vote and call your president or write him or text him and say, please, release this evidence. If it's just old Lee Harvey Oswald with his $19 gun,
Right.
Then put it out there.
Absolutely.
Let us find out so we can
Put it to rest once
Put
and
it
for
to
all.
rest. It's
Yeah.
like, Lincoln.
Right.
We're 160 years later, and they still won't say that Booth was. They still won't say that Booth, by the way, was associated with the Rothschilds back then. The
Right.
money he's getting to finance it came from Canada and Southern conspirators. You'll never hear it.
Right.
And that's why, how the joke goes, besides that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the play? Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
he died because he wanted to go around the Fed and finance the Civil War himself.
Right.
Andrew Jackson came in and told they tried to assassinate him. He came in and he told his vice president, Van Buren or whatever his name was,
Right.
the bank's trying to kill me.
Right.
The bank's trying to kill me. And Andrew Jackson had 6 duels. He was
Sure.
he was a tough guy.
Absolutely.
So there you go.
Yeah.
I would like to. There's some Lincoln Kennedy coincidences that you put up. That might be worth mentioning.
Well, one of them
things.
that I had here in my notes
Sure.
as well is that Jackie Kennedy actually modeled JFK's funeral service after Abe Lincoln's. Same thing, same procession. So
Exactly.
let's see. Both Lincoln and Kennedy were concerned about civil rights, of course. Lincoln was elected president in 1860, as Kennedy was elected in 1960.
Right.
Both were slain on a Friday and in the presence of their wives. Let's see. There's a couple other here. Booth and Oswald were somewhere leaving.
Booth was leaving the theater,
Can you
and
pull into that a little more?
yeah, and Booth was leaving the theater,
Right.
and Oswald ran into the theater.
Kennedy's secretary, whose name was Lincoln, advised him not to go to Dallas.
Yeah.
Booth shot Lincoln in a theater and ran to a warehouse. Oswald shot Kennedy from a warehouse and ran to a theater. Lincoln and Kennedy each contained 7 letters. The names John Wilkes Booth and Lee Harvey Oswald each contained 15 letters.
They were killed before they were brought to
Yeah,
trial.
that's the key thing, right? And both Johnsons were opposed to re-election by men whose names start with G. So, listen, there's a lot of interesting connections between these two presidents, and
Yes.
yet both presidents
Wanted to go around the Fed and print our own money.
exactly. So it's history will eventually determine what the belief is. So with that, I'm going to just say what I have to say. You do
Sure.
the closing arguments and
Okay.
say goodbye for us. So
All right, you
very
bet.
simply this. Based on the evidence and conversation that we've had here today, we want you to go to jfktheverdict.com. Cast your vote. You can cast your vote more than one time. Share the show with others, please. Please, please, please do that. I believe, and I'm looking towards our producer here to make certain, but this show will be up on Roku at some point. Is that correct? So you can go on to the Roku channel for Go Live Vegas, and you'll be able to see the show there.
I think Spotify as well.
And all the right, and then we're going to have a lot of the audio file podcasts like Spotify, iHeart, etc. Last but not least, I just want to once again say thank you to the Mob Museum for their support in today's show. With that, I'm going to turn it over for the final word.
I'd like to thank everybody who's listening. I really appreciate your time. It's a fascinating subject. It is a rabbit hole you don't want to go down because it just goes everywhere. And it's taken a lot of work and a lot of years to pull all this together and try to present it to you as a full picture and try to put all the pieces in place for you. I hope I was able to do that. If I was, I'm somewhat successful. I want to thank my co-anchor, Aaron, the voice, Phillips. He's a seasoned guy when it comes to this stuff. He's got a few of his own shows, so if you get a chance to watch Go Live Vegas, catch him on that. And he's got, Aaron, tell him the shows you got.
Well, I have a show called Aaron's Hour with Aaron Phillips, Saturdays from 12 to 1. I co-host a wrestling show called Thoughts Count Anywhere from 9 to 11 on Saturday. Thursday nights, The Roundtable. I co-host a show there as well. And then Friday mornings, Kiwanis Connect. So I'm all over the place with different topics. And I also wrote a book, which you've seen the commercials for, detailing my health transition from 354 pounds to 215. So I thank you for the opportunity to sit here with you. Because as I said, this happened a year before I was born. And of course, I know the story in history, but not like this. And you've opened my eyes to a lot more information than I ever knew.
Well, I'd also like to thank our sponsor, Sustainability Systems, Inc. Their motto is always be prepared for anything that may come your way. And this kind of show kind of supports that. Be prepared for anything. Anyway, that's Sustainability Systems, Inc. Or you can go to yourlifeboat.com and check out what they have. I want to thank you again for listening to Goldsmith Weighs In. We'll see you down the road at the next special. I'm not sure what it's going to be on, but it'll be on something very, very interesting. I promise you that. So once again, thanks for your time. Go vote lone gunman or conspiracy at the highest possible level. Thanks again for spending your time. I'm Scott Goldsmith. Bye for now. Sure, you want to be better prepared for any emergency in the uncertain world that we live in today? Sustainability Systems, Inc. has made it easier than ever before to have enough emergency storage food on hand to provide for your family. That's worry-free hunger insurance that your family will always have enough food on the table to meet any emergency. Sound good? But the budget's tight right now, right? How does less than a cup of coffee a day sound? That's just $39.95 a month, and Sustainability will send you a full bucket of delicious, ready-to-serve meals every quarter until you have built up enough storage food with a 25-year shelf life to take care of your family. Go to yourlifeboat.net. That's yourlifeboat.net. Or call us today at 1-800-713-4628. And please don't delay and be caught needing it but not having it. 1-800-713-4628. You'll thank us tomorrow.
Go Live Vegas Studios, a unique multi-camera social media virtual content creators paradise. We offer high-end services using live streaming and film production for your personal or corporate, commercial or event and campaign needs. Pre-record or live stream to your audience on multiple social media platforms simultaneously. Fun and interactive with social media comments, phone lines, live remotes, audio Foley sounds, and Snapchat filters. Be creative, get recognized, and make money. We help you by providing an all in-house production team. Visit our website at golive.vegas